times. Today's stories. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau condemns a burning of churches to protest residential schools. Health Canada to update Pfizer BioNTech and Moderna COVID-19 vaccine labels. State of emergency in British Columbia ends. Government of Canada COVID-19 update for Indigenous people and communities. Hello everyone, you're watching Eagle News Canada. I'm Tiffany Elisahas coming to you from Calgary, Alberta, bringing you stories from across the globe. As anger continues to rise with more remains of children being found in properties of residential schools, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau reminds Canadians that the burning of churches is not the answer. Eagle News correspondent Stacey Diocampo with the story.
Expressing anger over the discovery of unmarked graves on former residential school sites by burning churches is unacceptable. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said.
A historic Catholic church in the town of Morinville, near Edmonton, was destroyed in a suspicious fire this morning. Several other Catholic parishes have been damaged by fire elsewhere in the country. This is not the way to go, said Trudeau. The destruction of places of worship is unacceptable, and it must stop. Residential schools were established by the government in the 1800s to assimilate Indigenous children into white society. The last of them closed in 1996. Most were run by the Catholic Church. Attendance at the school was compulsory. Children were taken from their families, forced to learn English, and turned away from their Indigenous culture. Many children at the school suffered physical and sexual abuse at the hands of priests and nuns. The fire near Edmonton is being investigated by the police. When he visited the scene of the fire today, Alberta Premier Jason Kenney called it an attack on Canadian values and an act of hate. This is appalling. The scale of violence attacking a faith community is an attack on the constitutionally protected freedom of religion, said Kenney.
In Montreal, Stacey Diocampo will live in interesting times.
Heatwave hits Metro Vancouver with temperatures reaching record highs. Here's Eagle News correspondent Marjorie Twintos with the report.
A tiny community in the western Canadian province of British Columbia has set a temperature record for a third consecutive day. As the country's three western provinces endure a heat wave, Lytton recorded a temperature on Tuesday of 49.5 degrees centigrade, according to Environment Canada's Weather Service. Meanwhile, record-breaking temperatures that are baking Western Canada played a role in more than 24 deaths in British Columbia. The high temperatures extend eastward, heating up the province of Alberta and Saskatchewan. Across Alberta and Saskatchewan, temperatures were in the mid to high 30s. People in the three provinces are being told to take this heat wave seriously and to stay out of the sun, keep activity at a minimum, and drink plenty of water. Doctors warn that heat stroke can follow untreated heat exhaustion. They say it can happen with a little or no warning. The high temperatures also have forestry officials in all three provinces worried about wildfires in tinder-dry forests. Marjorie Quintos, we live in interesting times.
Health Canada updates Pfizer BioNTech and Moderna COVID-19 vaccine labels to include information on myocarditis and pericarditis. Eagle News correspondent Rose Gaviola reports.
Health Canada has updated the product monographs labels for the Pfizer BioNTech and Moderna COVID-19 vaccines to describe very rare reports of myocarditis, the inflammation of the heart muscle, and pericarditis, the inflammation of the tissue surrounding the heart, following vaccination. Cases of myocarditis and or pericarditis following immunization with COVID-19 vaccines have been reported in a small number of people in Canada and internationally. These reports are very rare. Health Canada and other international regulators are continuing to investigate the potential relationship between COVID-19 vaccines and these rare events. Most reported cases to date have followed vaccination with an mRNA vaccine, Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna, and, based on analysis of international cases, have occurred more often after the second dose and in younger male adults and adolescents. The Canadian evidence is expected to evolve as more people in these populations are vaccinated. Health Canada has updated the product labels for the Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna COVID-19 vaccines to inform Canadians and healthcare professionals of these possible side effects and to provide information about the signs and symptoms and when to seek prompt medical attention following vaccination. Health Canada will continue to work with manufacturers as well as domestic and international partners to gain a better understanding of the relationship between COVID-19 vaccines and these events. In addition, Health Canada and the Public Health Agency of Canada will continue to monitor Canadian and international reports of myocarditis and or pericarditis, particularly as more adolescents and young adults are vaccinated and more second doses are administered. The department will take appropriate action if any new safety issues are identified. Health Canada reassures Canadians that COVID-19 vaccines continue to be safe and effective at protecting them against COVID-19. The benefits of COVID-19 vaccines continue to outweigh their potential risks as scientific evidence show that they reduce deaths and hospitalizations due to COVID-19. The Government of Canada encourages people to get vaccinated and to complete their vaccine series as soon as they are eligible. Rosalyn Gaviola, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
With many people receiving the vaccine, British Columbia officially enters Phase 3, or the Restart Plan. What does this mean for the province? Eagle News correspondent Kathleen Cruz has the details.
British Columbia has officially entered the Phase 3 of the BC's Restart Plan, ending the longest state of emergency in BC's history.
After approximately 67 weeks, the state of emergency has ended on June 30, 2021, mandating any public health orders relating to COVID-19 pandemic response. With nearly 80% British Columbians vaccinated, the province has moved to Step 3 of 4-phase restart plan on July 1, 2021, which includes lifting the mask mandate. Here is BC Premier's John Horgan for the details.
Let's take a moment today to reflect on where we've been and celebrate the opportunities that we have ahead of us as individuals, as families, and as communities to put COVID-19 behind us from a pandemic to a communicable disease, which means keep washing or cleaning those hands. I'm going to be wearing a mask if I'm with a group of people that I do not know, if I'm on a bus, if I'm on a ferry, if I'm on an airplane. These are recommendations now, not directives, but those recommendations are there for a reason.
Phase 3 is a big milestone as more activities and occasions can now be resumed for British Columbians, according to Ravi Kalan, Minister of Jobs, Economic Recovery and Innovation. The return to normal for indoor and outdoor personal gatherings will now be enjoyed to 50 people or 50% of venues' total capacity. Canadians from out of provinces can also now enjoy recreational travel in British Columbia. The 4-step restart plan was designed based on data and guidance from the public health team led by the BC Centre for Disease Control and Dr. Bonnie Henry, BC's provincial health officer. Progressing to each step of the plan will be measured by the number of people vaccinated, COVID-19 case counts and hospitalizations and deaths, and other key public health metrics.
To British Columbians, thank you for thinking about each other over the past 16 months. Let's keep doing that through this challenging week and throughout the summer as we get ready to go to Stage 4 come Labor Day.
In Vancouver, Kathleen Cruz, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
The Government of Canada continues to remain committed to to taking an equity approach to COVID-19 response, including prioritizing Indigenous people across Canada. Here's a report from our Manitoba Bureau.
The news of the remains of 215 children found in the area around the former Kamloops Indian Residential School is a painful reminder of the harms families and survivors have suffered and continue to suffer. Flags on the Peace Tower in Ottawa and on all Government of Canada buildings and establishments across the country are being flown at half-mast until further notice. The National Indian Residential School Crisis Line is available to provide emotional and crisis referral services to former residential school students. The tragic discovery of children's remains last week near the former Kamloops Indian Residential School unveils a difficult truth, reminding us of Canada's history. Across the country, Canadians are paying their respects to the memories of the victims of the Kamloops. The COVID-19 pandemic has revealed, once again, the persistent socioeconomic and health disparities experienced by Indigenous peoples that have resulted from this legacy of ongoing racism and discrimination. The Government of Canada remains committed to taking an equity approach to the COVID-19 response, including by prioritizing Indigenous peoples across Canada, regardless of where they live, for vaccine administration. As the federal government leads in the pandemic response specific to Indigenous communities, Indigenous Services Canada will remain steadfast in offering direct support to communities in leading public health and social measures. It also appreciates the collaborative efforts of many Indigenous organizations, as well as of provincial and territorial governments. Vaccination has reached an important milestone, with more than 3/4 of the adults in First Nations, Inuit, and territorial communities having received at least one vaccine dose, and 43% having received a second dose. Indigenous leadership has been central in promoting vaccine confidence and uptake, as well as ensuring that people have the information and resources needed to stay healthy and combat COVID-19. The resilience and hard work of communities, despite the many challenges faced throughout the pandemic, are important to recognize. While the vaccine results are encouraging, Indigenous communities will be making measured decisions on the easing of public health measures. Based on Statistics Canada's 2020 population projections, over 79% of adults in First Nations communities and adults living in the territories have received at least one dose of a COVID-19 vaccine. While this past month has been another powerful reminder of the long distance we must still travel together as a country to reconcile with our past and our present, the Government of Canada will continue to listen and act in support of strengthening Indigenous self-determination so that these harms can never recur. Reporting for Eagle News, I'm Kathleen May Pangan. We live in interesting times.
Coming up, communities in Greater Toronto receive help from a local church. And updates from the Canadian Elite Basketball League and the NBA. Eagle News Canada continues after this. Welcome back. You are watching Eagle News Canada. I'm Tiffany Elisassis from Calgary, Alberta. Communities in Greater Toronto area of Canada receive assistance from the Iglesia ni Cristo or Church of Christ and the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation. Eagle News correspondent Cherry Rico Lozado files this report.
Healing a community takes a village. And last Tuesday, June 28th, the Church of Christ and the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation extended its helping hand to those in need, not just of basic necessities, but to those in need of healing. True North Aid is a non-profit charitable organization dedicated to serving First Nations communities in Canada by providing practical humanitarian support. The Church of Christ here in Greater Toronto, together with other members of their church throughout Canada, donated $20,000 in check, along with 100 sets of school supplies, school bags, beddings, blankets, and pillows, all going to the Northern First Nations communities. A special program was prepared by the Church of Christ members here in Greater Toronto and was witnessed virtually by their ministers and members from Calgary, British Columbia, Ottawa, Quebec, and Edmonton. The ceremonial check and donations were received by representatives from the True North Aid. Let's take a listen.
Church of Christ, Indigenous, and us at True North Aid, holding hands, helping people up in these communities is just so good. I'm so proud to be a part of this whole thing, and I'm proud to be here today. I would like to thank the Church of Christ, Indigenous, for inviting me here today. It's an honor. I like to thank the people that are on the screen here from various parts of Canada. I appreciate your interest in True North Aid and what we're doing. I also am very honored to provide Brother Eduardo for the 12 years of dedication and devotion he's brought to this church, and also Brother Glasario, who is working so hard at the FYM, which is part of what we do as well, the giving of people and humanitarian aid.
Indeed, the history and current issues surrounding the First Nations people here in Canada are complex and painful. However, healing is possible when a community comes together to help one another in times of pain, grief, and need. In Toronto, Cherry Recolisado, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
In sports, the Fraser Valley Bandits tipped off against the Saskatchewan Rattlers to open up the 2021 Canadian Elite Basketball League season at the Abbotsford Centre, marking the return of professional basketball in British Columbia. Here's Eagle News correspondent Anthony Sevilla with the report.
Alongside other leagues across the globe, the Canadian Elite Basketball League was hit hard following the COVID-19 pandemic. No fans were allowed in the arenas, the league was postponed, but was eventually able to hold their CEBL season in a bubble-like atmosphere in St. Catharines, Ontario last summer. That meant that the game between the Bandits and the Rattlers marked the first professional basketball game in British Columbia in almost 2 years. Despite the lowering number of cases in the province, the Bandits and the Rattlers played in front of an empty crowd at the Abbotsford Centre, as fans have yet to be allowed into arenas across Canada. Bandits head coach Dave Singleton told us what he misses most about the fans in Abbotsford.
You know, the energy is always great, man. You know, I've been coaching now for about I guess over a year, and there's been no fans, so I do miss it. One day I'm sure they'll come back, and I think it'll just bring the game into another level, but hopefully they get to watch at home and they enjoy it and like what they see.
The Fraser Valley Bandits overcame the Saskatchewan Rattlers in their season opener 92-74, who were led by former Rattler Alex Campbell's 25 points off the bench. Campbell was a huge part of Saskatchewan's title run in 2019, winning the CEBL Finals MVP. The Bandits guard spoke post-game about facing his former team and the decision of the coaching staff bringing him off the bench.
It was just another game, you know what I mean? Obviously, leading up to that date, you know, you would think that, you know, I have a game circled on the schedule and stuff, but I try to ignore all that noise and just focus on the game itself and just try to treat it like any other game. But like in training camp, you know, we the way they built this team, we can go 1 through 10, 1 through 12 or whatever, and I have trust in the coaching staff, and you know, there's a method to the madness, and I believe, you know what I mean, I'm going to play my role. I'm going to do what I do in order to get wins like today.
Bandits head coach Dave Singleton praised his guard for his attitude towards his new role, but was not surprised about Campbell's fit on the team.
I'm not surprised at all. Former MVP, the guy's a hard worker. He's as hard as a worker as I've seen. and I think he's fitting in well. Right now we have him in the six-man role. A lot of people wouldn't accept that role at his level and the caliber of player that he is, but he's humble and he understands it, and I think he really worked that position well today, and I think it's just going to grow and grow from here.
The Saskatchewan Rattlers will continue to seek their first win of the season, while the Bandits will try and use this win against the Rattlers and further maintain their momentum going forward this season. In Vancouver, Anthony Sevilla, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
After an abysmal Game 4 performance in Atlanta, the Bucks got the big games from Brook Lopez, Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, and Bobby Portis Jr. to take Game 5 over the Hawks without Giannis Antetokounmpo. Plus, Rick Carlisle is introduced as the new head coach of the Indiana Pacers. Here's Eagle News correspondent Tenny Salmagi with this week's NBA recap.
Bobby Portis Jr. performed the best game of his career, and Milwaukee Bucks fans had his back, chanting his name throughout Game 5's victory over the Atlanta Hawks Thursday night. Filling in the starting role for the injured Giannis Antetokounmpo, Portis Jr. scored a career best of 22 points and was happy to please Bucks fans with his performance.
I mean, like, Milwaukee's a tough city. We was meeting with, some people over the start of the season, about January, February, and they were just telling us all about the city and how tough it is to live here and things like that. And, the city goes through a lot. So when they see somebody that gives his all and, work hard, because it's a blue-collar city, and I'm a blue-collar player, whether I'm making shots, whether they're going in or not, I still give my all to the team, get 100% for the name on the front of the jersey. And they love players like that. And, it's just fun, man, to go out there and play this game and, have the home court advantage as well, just to get them involved, just so we can, have that home court advantage.
He's a hard worker, a guy that puts it all out there on the court. He just showed you how he was in the gym the other day, on the day off. He's a guy that's going to keep working, no matter what.
Brook Lopez played some old-school basketball on the paint, scoring a career postseason high of 33 points on 14-18 shooting. Drew Holiday added 25 points and 13 assists as the Bucks are one game shy of meeting the Phoenix Suns in the NBA Finals.
I'm just trying to go out there and help my team however possible, whether it's, playing that new modern 3-ball game, floor stretch game, or being inside. And what was great about today is we were really all just basketball players playing together, both on offense and on defense. We were playing off one another, making plays, making extra passes, and it was a lot of fun tonight.
Nah, I think me and Brooke kind of had this connection, defensively and offensively, just for him to be able to get in positions to help me. So even when I get into the paint, and sometimes this man might step up, I'll always know that Brooke's right behind him. Same thing on defense. If I get beat, I know Brooke's behind me. So not only me, I feel like Brooke has a connection with everybody, just to be able to read the game, whether to step out the three or be in the paint and kind of control the paint.
Over to Indiana, where Rick Carlisle returns to coach the Pacers for the second time in his career, signing a 4-year contract worth $29 million. Carlisle left the Dallas Mavericks after 13 seasons and 1 NBA title. Hopes to help the Pacers return to the playoffs.
Again, as I have gone through my coaching experience journey, however you want to characterize it, the thing that I've learned about myself and my approach to NBA coaching is that whatever players are presented to me by my management or my ownership, or however those things go, I really take a great deal of pride and love the challenge of taking that group and molding that group into the right kind of system. I've been able to have conversations with all the guys on the roster Some of them I've had multiple conversations with. I like the way they're talking. I like the tone. We're going to make a heavy emphasis on getting better defensively and finding ways to create as many small edges as we can. We need to get back in the playoffs, and we need to find a way to win in the playoffs. I mean, I think it's pretty clear that that's what the mandate is.
And that's a wrap for this week's NBA News. In New York, Tenny Sumagi, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
That's today's Eagle News Canada. Join us again next week as we bring stories that matter to you. Visit our website at eaglenews.net and eaglenewslive.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/eaglenews and on Facebook at facebook.com/eaglenews. Thank you for watching. I'm Tiffany Aliasassis. We live in interesting times.